Who am I? My name's Ashton Cull. I'm a Senior Public Affairs Lead for the Road Haulage Association. I've been working in this industry for about 3 years now. I lead on advocacy and engagement with governments, both national and regional, on the issues relevant to the road haulage industry. One of the main things I lead on are facilities, international issues, not so much customs, more stuff about actually the mechanics of getting across the border, clandestine entrance, that sort of thing, and freight crime. It's one of my pet issues and one of the things I'm really passionate about trying to deal with. You probably all know who the Road Haulage Association are, but I'll give you that spiel as well. We're the only trade association representing those who drive British business on our roads. We have 8,500 members, representing hauliers, coach operators, and van operators. We are also, for the subject of this discussion, a significant sponsor of NAVSIS, the National Vehicle Crime Intelligence Service. That's the police unit that gathers intelligence and pursues incidents of freight crime. Now, what is freight crime? Well, in some ways it's quite straightforward. It's the targeting of commercial vehicles, their loads, and their fuel. The fuel actually is the thing that is the most often taken. It's the most stolen commodity from any freight crime incident. And also, of course, the targeting of the vehicles, not just for the fuel, but also the vehicles themselves. Often they're used in other crime incidents, used for other thefts, or in worst case scenario, there have been incidents, of course, thankfully not so much in this country, but incidents where commercial vehicles have been used in terrorist action. Freight crime generally there is a high level of industry intelligence by those who are perpetrating freight crime. They know what's moving, when it's moving, and where it's most at risk. We have to be blunt as well. This is a part of serious organised crime. We know there are 3 major gangs operating. They operate across the strategic road network, targeting vehicles at risk anywhere, stopped anywhere overnight in the country. They have the networks and the markets to be able to get rid of their goods swiftly and and liquidize them. And they can move those stolen goods on really, really easily. Then that also then finances other organised crime activities, more nefarious and things we obviously we need to be tackling as well. The fact is, this is a low risk and high reward exercise for these criminals. Often when I'm talking about this in the media, I'm always asked, how about the number of drivers that get threatened, the number of drivers that have to take on the criminals themselves? Thankfully, actually, that's quite a low number. But that's part of the problem, is the fact that this is such a low risk, high reward exercise. They can get away and steal these loads, often without a driver even recognising, without even knowing until it's far, far too late. Also, a big point of this is, in some interpretations, we don't know what freight crime is. When it comes to recording incidents of freight crime, when you call the police and ask them to record the incident, they don't have a code to be able to log on their system that this is an incident of freight crime. The closest they can do is theft from a motor vehicle. I don't know, theft from a motor vehicle also entails stealing personal items like wallets and sunglasses from from personal vehicles through smashing windows, passenger seats, that sort of thing. Now, opportunistic, low-value crime versus high-value, organised crime. There's no way those two items should ever be categorised the same. The fact is, we can't go into the police computer and quickly find out how many freight crime incidents there are. We don't know the true extent of the situation. Also, generally, the sentencing for these crimes is not serious enough. I'm going to describe to you now an incident which concluded with a successful conviction in 2023. An individual stole £31,000 worth of goods. He stole an HGV tractor unit and used that tractor unit to then connect up and steal an entire trailers full of products. He was sentenced to 18 months in prison for £31,000 worth of goods stolen. Unfortunately, the fact that was 200,000 cream eggs means a lot of people don't treat this as seriously as it is. But when you talk about the numbers, it is obviously a significant crime. These are the most recent numbers we have for freight crime. NAVSIS updated these numbers just recently. 4,879 incidents of freight crime in 2024. That's not just, there was not necessarily a theft of goods for each of those incidents. That includes interference with the vehicle. So when they slash the curtain to be able to look inside and see if something's worth nicking, that's also included on there as an incident of freight crime. Now, when you look at that figure, actually, when you compare it with last year's figure, weirdly, that's actually a drop from the year previously. However, That second figure there, £111.5 million worth of goods stolen. That is an increase of 2/3 from last year. £68 million worth of goods stolen in 2023, 111 million stolen in 2024. So that means these criminals are getting better at the job they're doing. They have to target fewer vehicles, they have to make fewer attempts in order to be able to find a load that's worth stealing. The real cost has been calculated by insurers in the TT Club. This isn't just the 111 is, of course, that it's not the retail cost of goods, it's the production cost. The full cost, when you take into account the retail value, also the damage to businesses, not only the businesses whose goods they are, but also the vehicles, repairing the damages, which is often over £1,000 per incident, increased insurance, the impact on drivers, the impact on consumers through higher prices and shortages of goods, and the broader impact on society. We predict that last year, the genuine cost of the UK economy was £700 million. Got a bit of a breakdown of the data here to look at a few specific ways of looking at this. The regional breakdown here, you see these 5 key regions. These regions have been consistent over the last 5 years. 80% of the freight crime offences occurred in the east of England, the West Midlands, Yorkshire Humberside, the South East, or the East Midlands. Point is, these regions are the ones where drivers are most likely to stop as a part of doing their jobs. When you look at it strategically, it's where they're coming from the ports as well. That's where the taco is telling them they need to stop. That's where they're being targeted by the criminals. Looking at the different locations where incidents occur, independent parking is roadside parking, where you're not parked at a safe, secure truck stop or motorway service area. That's lay-bys, that's industrial estates. So you can see there, obviously, a large proportion of the incidents have occurred, nearly half, all occurred at independent parking sites. That is an increase of 10% from last year as well. That's a pure number, so it increased the number despite the drop in incidents generally. We saw the drop in the numbers of incidents in service areas, secure yards, and truck stops. And you say, why is that the case? Well, we'll go into this in more detail later, but we've been partly, I think, through the attention that we've been bringing onto freight crime as an issue through the RHA's campaigns, through the money that's been invested by both businesses and government in increasing security and making sure that these sites are secure, means there's less opportunities for criminals to target trucks that are in these sites, and means that more of them are going back to targeting vehicles that are parked up on the roadside. And the last two here, because they're kind of semi-technical terms, I'll just explain. Jump-up offences are those where partial loads are stolen while the vehicle is being unloaded. So literally when you're jumping up into the back of the vehicle to take a part of a load out. And the rollover is actually stealing goods while the vehicle is in transit. A van and a car pull up behind HGV, open the doors up, remove goods and pass them into the van that's moving behind. That has significantly increased. There's a particular gang that's known to like doing that. I think, again, it demonstrates the lengths that these people are going to access the high-value loads that we're talking about here. Yeah, looking at the police forces, the top 3 police force areas, Essex, Warwickshire and West Yorkshire, happen to pretty much coincide where we know where the gangs are operating. Obviously, Essex and Warwickshire, and these are places as well where the strategic road network is well established, where there's a lot of connections. Again, it's where vehicles are stopping. We know that's where the gangs are operating as well. The commodities that are being stolen, again, you see there, fuel top. Food and drink, increasingly, that's really shot up this year. The Grocer did an article early last year saying how olive oil was being targeted by gangs because of the increase. Again, it all comes from the increase from inflation, from the increase in cost of living. It means that more and more goods become more and more viable for these criminals to target. All these items are things that can be easily sold on, easily reused. Again, number 8 there, the tractor units themselves. Again, like that incident, like I mentioned earlier, you've always got to consider that as well. Not just the loads being stolen, the fuel being stolen, but the vehicles themselves. And finally, the MSA list here on the far side there. I want to give these guys, they have a difficult job as a motorway service area. We have to give them due credit. 90% of their customers need to be in and out in quite a smooth and efficient way within 30 minutes or so. It's only really about 10% of their business which is made up by HGVs who are stopping for a longer period. It's hard to have the majority of your site open and free for people to move in and out, but then the rest of your site to be so secure that you know that thefts can't occur. So they do have a difficult task. And we also know the motorway service areas, the HGV sections, are always massively oversubscribed. If you go in any night time to a service area, you'll see the HGV sections are always overflowing. So we know it's a really tough situation they're facing. Rachel Taylor, who's the chair of the APPG for Freight and Logistics, recently went and met with the runners and Cawley services, and they mentioned how they are increasing security, putting cameras in, also improving the facilities for drivers there. Again, we have to accept they're doing what they can to try and bring freight crime down. But again, when it comes to these numbers, the fact is these are all estimates. Because the fact we don't have that specific reporting code, we can't just go into the police computer and pull up really easily, this is how many freight crime incidents there are last year. We have to rely on voluntary reporting by police services. So a hard-working police officer, he's been called out to a crime, so let's be honest, it's going to be very difficult for them to investigate. Got enough paperwork and bureaucracy they have to do alongside that, then have to take the additional step of reporting it to this other more distant unit. The fact is as well, NavSys has limited resources. I mentioned at the beginning of this talk, the RHA is a significant sponsor of NavSys. NavSys operates entirely on the basis of sponsorship. It's the industry that keeps NavSys doing the work that it's doing. I can't think of any crimes of similar significance as freight crime where the victims have to pay for their own policing. NavSys operates on a hand-to-mouth basis, both in terms of money and in terms of data. The fact is, the true extent of freight crime could be a lot worse. So what's being done? One of the things that's being done is the British Parking Association has launched Park Mark Freight, I think it's the last year or two. This is the standard that we support as the RHA. This standard is designed by designing out crime officers. They work with police officers to assess sites to determine whether they are secure or not. They also look at the facilities for truck stops to make sure when a site gets a Park Mark Freight accreditation, it's a secure site, it's a safe site, it's also a site where a driver is going to get the treatment that we all expect them to receive. And these are independently assessed by BPA area managers. So we know this, independent assessment it's held to the highest standard. And the fact is there's only 16 sites currently that do have Park Mark Freight accreditation. That shows the level of standard that they're working at. But they're working with all the others that haven't yet been able to make that. They're working with them to try and find ways to get their standards up. The Task and Finish group, this was RHA instigated. The Secretary of State for Transport directed these officials to make it happen. It was an industry-led and a Department for Transport civil servant supported group, bringing together industry and politicians, focusing on the issues that lead to poor standards of security and a lack of capacity on the strategic road network of safe and secure parking. We worked for a year working on all those issues that impact those standards. One thing we determined was the lack of competition is one of the main reasons. The fact that the site knows that it's going to be full regardless. It doesn't have to up its standards or make sure it's secure because it knows that they're going to be full anyway. So we produced a report and several pieces of guidance, all designed to increase the number of safe and secure parking facilities on the strategic road network. That work went on for a year. The guidance is now ready. We're now in the process of rolling that out to others to planning authorities and to applicants to try and find a way to, again, get these standards out there, make them operational, get more sites approved. And then there's the match funding that was provided by government. 69 million has in the last 2 years has been invested by industry and government together on improved welfare facilities and security for truck stops. It has also led to 1,000 additional parking spaces being brought onto the network. And what we're doing now, moving into this year, we have RHA's 2025 Freight Crime Campaign. And this is where we take all the attention that we've now got on freight crime, all the people who are sitting in the room right now, to talk about what actually we need to do to finally sort this issue out. One, get that crime reporting code that I talked about. And actually, as we speak, I believe it's either about to start or is about to start in 10 minutes' time. A 10-minute rule bill is going to be introduced by Rachel Taylor, the chair of the APPG and Member of Parliament for North Warwickshire, that will target that specific issue, improving the report and getting that reporting code in. That's going to be debated in the House of Commons, and we'll hopefully we'll hear a response from the Minister on what government's going to do to respond to that In the best case scenario, that bill ends up on the statute book, and that has been a direct influence from something the RHA has been doing to bring down freight crime. We're also going to be leading a review on the sentencing. I would say 18 months for £31,000 worth of goods stolen is nowhere near high enough. We need to look at why that's the case. Do we need new sentencing guidelines? Do we need our own offence of freight crime? Do we need to start prosecuting people under a different crime to really demonstrate the seriousness of this issue? And then also funding for NAVSIS, actually giving them the resources they need to be able to do the job well. We have worked out the RHA that with just for £6 million, they could have a regional hub in each of the three key areas with the resources to investigate and pursue incidents, target criminals, the money that they get from these crimes, and also all their related organised crime activities. £6 million to tackle a crime that causes £700 million worth of damage to the country every year. I think that's worth it. And what can you all do? Those of you who are here who are not part of the RHA and watching this presentation. So, when your vehicle is at rest, your vehicle is at risk. That's what NAVSIS say. So it's important when a vehicle is out on the road and staying overnight, taking its long rest, you put it in a secure facility. Now, we know that's difficult. We know often the secure facilities will fill up well before your driver has a chance to get in there. But we've got to make sure it's the expectation a driver is to park up in a secure facility, and contractors, and also don't put the burden on the driver to pay the fee. Finally, secondly, you also need to make sure that all incidents of freight crime are reported. Yes, they may not get investigated. No, you won't get an officer to attend, but it's all important intelligence. It's data. It means we can demonstrate the true extent of freight crime. It's only by demonstrating the true extent will we get this taken seriously. You can join NAVSIS. Give them some money. Give them some money and even to be able to help them to do the job. There's not money for nothing. You get industry intelligence. You get direct access to information that will be able to help your business, but you'll also be helping tackle freight crime across the country. And then also just be involved with the RHA campaign as you see things about it. Tweet it on social media, get the details out there.